Hello viewers. Do you know what they say about the best laid plans? They're subject to change. And when those best laid plans are subjected to change, well, do you have a plan B? And in today's video, guys, I'm going to call it contingency travel. The beauty of having a plan B. Welcome back to CoffeeChillTV. And folks, just to share the inspiration for today's socioeconomic philosophic chit-chat vlog on CoffeeChillTV, it was only half an hour ago. I was having a coffee at Mountain Creek and I read a fantastic article in today's Courier Mail, Tuesday, June 23, 2026, by a Claire Isaac in the Holiday Hacks section. And the title of her fantastic little article, Always Have a Travel Plan B. In that she's got several different scenarios, she shares personal stories and anecdotes. I'm going to do the same. Alright, let's roll. So folks, excuse any wind effects, but regular viewers to the CoffeeChillTV channel know I do like my live to tape narration. Mistakes and all, repetitions, out of order sequencing, wind effects, mispronunciations. I'm an old school vlogger, and I'm going to run the list. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scenarios in the Claire Isaac article, and let me share you my musings on those. And as the ibis comes into shot, the bin chicken. Here's the different plan Bs. The weather plan B, the transport plan B, the crowds are nuts plan B, the sick day plan B, and the lost baggage, luggage, cash plan B. Okay folks, the first one is the weather plan B. Now, I was planning to be a little bit closer to the water shooting this video this morning, but it's really gusty, the winds. So I'm back a little bit in a covered gazebo. Contingency planning. I would have liked to have been close to the beach, but if it's really gusty here in the park, it's going to be really windy at the beach. So straight off the bat, the weather plan B, here's an operating example. But let me go back into a little bit of my history for another example. And ironically, folks, my example, it does sync with the example in the Claire Isaac article. When the weather goes south, you've got to have those rainy day activities. And she talks about the museum. And yes, several years ago, I was in Can and I was with a mate and we were going to do a walkabout in the Bunkan Public Park with all the dinosaurs and the big lake, but it was raining, so we went to the museum in Konkan. You can find videos on both of those locations in the back catalogue. Gratuitous cross promotion, but yeah, interestingly, in her article, Claire Isaac, she says obviously just be careful because for a lot of people, museums are a go-to when it's a rainy day. Another go-to for me on a rainy day might be checking out a local shopping centre, a covered one. That can also be a weather plan B. And of course, you can Google up rainy day activities in Mooloolaba. And it's probably difficult to see from here, but the aquarium. Okay, so if it's torrential at Mooloolaba Beach and you're here, particularly with families, or if you have a particular interest in all matters nautical as pertains to the animal kingdom, hey, I've been to the aquarium here at Mooloolaba a few times, and hey, it's a good plan B contingency activity on a rainy day in Mooloolaba. All right, yeah, have the weather plan B, guys. Sage advice. The next plan B, transport. Let's talk about transport. So with regards to transport, I've got a couple of examples, and the first example, it's sort of a bit of a mixture of weather and transport. Going back several years ago, I was due to fly to Phuket, like a 9 a.m. flight out of Brisbane, a couple of hours in Changi, Singapore, and then I would arrive as the sun went down in Phuket. But the best laid plans, we know what can happen to them. And on that day, there was fog at Brisbane Airport, and yeah, all the planes were grounded for several hours. I didn't get to fly out until early afternoon, and by the time I got to Singapore, yeah, all the connecting flights were gone to Phuket. And I talk about the pros and cons of connecting flights and stopovers and layovers in my Sunshine Coast Airport vlog, where I dig a bit deeper into that. Just to cut a long story short, I suppose one of the benefits of going with a full service airline, getting a flexi fare, paying a bit of a premium, Singapore Airlines were good enough to kind of put me up at a 4-star hotel. I spent a night in Singapore, and then the next afternoon I got that flight I was supposed to get the day before, and I arrived in Phuket. And I suppose, the transport plan B was that I had a bit of slack in my schedule. Okay, I wasn't, attending an important event that night in Phuket. And yeah, I just spent an extra night, well, unplanned, in Singapore, but it was wonderful, and I went the next day. Another transport story from a few years ago. I was in Udon Thani, Isan, Thailand, for the Songkran festival, and it was the second night, and I was trying to organise a taxi. Just all of them were like 1.5 hour wait time, and because it's just crazy. And also on the roads in Udon Thani, sort of early evening, late afternoon, in the middle of Songkran, it's a little bit hair and scare 'em. What did I do? Well, I ended up having a plan B where I just celebrated Songkran near my hotel. I did a walkabout at Nomprajak. I didn't bother going into town at that time, but I did go back the next day into the middle of town, and I went around midday. And how did I get home? Later that night at the bar I was drinking at, one of the ladies there, she knew a tuk-tuk guy, and she rang him personally, and I gave him a 20 baht tip. It's about 80 cents Australian, $1 Australian, and he picked me up at the bar. So have those connections, guys. It's not what you know, it's who you know sometimes. So yeah, that was my transport plan B story. Well, a couple of them there, one at the airport, and one kind of stuck in the middle of town in a busy festival time, but someone knew someone, and we made it work. So the next one on the list in this article, the crowds are nuts, plan B. So kind of topical, we're here at Mooloolaba. Now every year in Mooloolaba and Noosa, they have some major kind of sports participation events, marathons, triathlons. If you find yourself in this part of the world when one of those big sporting festivals is on, yeah, having a plan B. For me, I always mark my diary and I make sure I don't try to park up here. And I have friends that I catch up with on a regular basis. On a Saturday morning, I say, hey guys, let's rain check that till next week because the crowds are going to be crazy. You know, marathons and triathlons on the Sunshine Coast, it's just absolute bedlam. And coming back to Thailand, a few years ago now, I was in a place called Parkyn, and I was having a beer, and a lot of ladies behind the bar. She was chatting to this guy, and then she walked across the road down an alleyway to a little, off the beaten track hotel. What was that all about? Well, this guy had arrived in Parkyn. He hadn't booked his accommodation in advance, and there was something on at the Parkyn University. Suffice to say, hotel rooms were at a premium. But once again, not what you know, who you know. This lady behind the bar, she had a friend, had a little 2-star hotel down a little alleyway, perfectly safe, and she had a spare room there at the hotel, and she sorted it out for this bloke. Let me give you another story from the 90s. So folks, going back to the early 90s and the crowds are nuts, plan B. I was on the island of Koh Phangan for the full moon party. If you've ever been, I don't need to say too much about it. If you've never been, you can kind of Google it up. It was 1993, it was packed, and I was already there. I got there early. That's kind of one way to manage that contingency. I was there a good week before the full moon party, and I was chatting to some people later that night. And I said, and they just arrived that afternoon on the ferry from Koh Samui. I said, how'd you get your hotel? They said, we ended up staying on the patio with a local, one of the locals, capitalism. You got to love it. They kind of rented out patio space to backpackers, Koh Phangan, full moon party. So sometimes, guys, you got to have a little bit of that lateral thinking, and ask around. Another story for me, the other story about the crowds are nuts. I can remember many years ago going to watch a sold out Brisbane Broncos game. They are a rugby league team here in Queensland, Australia, and the ground was on the south side of town, and it was a full house. Trying to get a car park, it was premium, but I saw some local entrepreneurs renting out their driveways, renting out their front yards for a couple of bucks, car parking. Good on them. I think these days we use funky words like the share economy. A plan B, a couple of dollars, pay a local to park in their, in their driveway or their front yard. Problem solved. Okay, folks, the next one is the sick day, plan B. I hope you've already had your breakfast. Let's get into it. Okay, the sick day, plan B. And I referenced this in an earlier video, my travel CV. And I talked about, getting on the wrong side of a seafood curry in Kenya. Now, my plan B was I was slow travelling, and I was travelling with a couple of companions. So there's a couple of things there. First of all, there was 3 of us, so my gastro issue didn't slow down the other 2. They just went out on their own and did some sightseeing, For me, my room right across the road was the beach. Okay, and it wasn't a bad place to be, camped out for 48 hours. Another bit of contingency planning when it comes to sick days. Another bit of contingency planning when it comes to sick days can obviously be, pharmaceuticals. Now, read the disclaimer and waiver on my in the notes. I'm not here to give medical advice, but in that case in Kenya, I let it run its course. We weren't in a hurry. We just extended our stay in that location, and when my friends came back from all of their travels, they were able to tell me, this place is worth checking out, this one not so much. And we had that flexibility. We built slack in the schedule. But I've travelled in the past with once again, I gave you that warning before. Hope you had breakfast, but diarrhea suppressant, pharmaceuticals, hydrolytes, car sickness, air sickness, motion sickness, tablets. If you're in a hurry, you've got a tight itinerary, maybe you have some some pharmaceutical precautions. In many parts of the world, of course, you can go and get that. I'm not here to give medical advice, but maybe having something in your kit bag as a plan B for those sick days could also have some value. As the wind picks up, lucky last. The lost bags, lost cash, plan B. And I've got a couple of stories and anecdotes to go with this one as well. Okay guys, excuse the dad joke. Travel is not always smooth sailing. And, in terms of lost bags, I've got a great story. This is going back, must have been about 15 years ago. I was travelling with a mate. We were staying at the Asia Hotel in Bangkok, Ratchatui, if I pronounced that correctly. Probably didn't. Shout out to my Thai followers. And we flew connecting flights, Brisbane, Singapore, Bangkok. Now, my baggage in Singapore missed the connecting flight. We arrived in Bangkok. It was kind of early evening. We were all excited. We were going to get on the BTS, 4 stops from Ratchatui to Nana Plaza. But hey, the best laid plans, you know what happens sometimes. And in this story, folks, the bags, they didn't make the connecting flight. When I arrived in Bangkok, a representative from Singapore Airlines, now guys, I don't get endorsements, I don't do referral partnerships on this channel, I fly lots of different airlines, but it was a great experience, again, with Singapore Airlines. They came to me and they said, look, your bag missed a connecting flight, we're going to drop it off at your hotel personally at no additional cost to you. It'll arrive around about midnight. Now, both my mate and myself, we're kind of hot to trot. We hadn't been to Thailand for a few years. We want to go to Nana Plaza. Trip the light, fantastic. But you know what? I only had the clothes that I had on for, it was about 7 or 8 hours to Singapore, a few hours in the airport, another 1 or 2 hours to Bangkok, Yeah, we didn't go to Nana Plaza. What did we do? We just hung around the hotel, the Asia Hotel. Out the front of the hotel, there was a street side bar and food place. Oh, loved it. We sat on the plastic chairs, We had some chicken fried rice, we had some icy cold beer chungs, and we had a great night. The next night, yeah, we went to Nana Plaza and all the fun and frivolity of the adult playground that is Nana Plaza. There you go. Sometimes, folks, the best fun is in your own backyard, or in this case, in and around your hotel. Sometimes you don't have to go into the centre of the action, you know, and sometimes, folks, you know, when you have lost bags and lost cash, the plan B ends up being a real highlight. Let me give you one other story. So folks, have I ever lost cash? Yeah, but nothing significant. But there was an occasion going back a few years ago now, I think it was 2019, where yeah, I was the victim of a credit card skimmer scam. Let me tell you more about that. So folks, going back to December 2019, I flew out of Bali and into Bangkok on New Year's Eve. Interestingly, it wasn't that expensive. Okay. I arrived in Bangkok and my bank contacted me and said, oh, we think your credit card's been compromised, we're going to fry it. I had cash on me. Now look, you know, I believe cash is king. I'm a fan of cash. Having cash on you when you lose cash or you lose access to your credit card in a different location to where, you know, you are stowing your primary source. And in this case, guys, I didn't lose cash. I had a compromised credit card. It got fried by the bank. I had enough cash. Once again, I just kind of hung around the hotel and I didn't go out like a 2-week millionaire for a few nights. Luckily, I had organised forward plans and the bank basically couriered the new card to the hotel I was going to be staying in for a few days in Udon Thani. And let me expand a little bit further on this one. And folks, as I put on my Bintang hat, hello Bali, I love Bali. I learned a lesson from that in terms of contingency planning. When I travel now, I have 2 cards. I have them in different locations on my person. I only had one for that trip, you know. Luckily it all worked out okay in the end, but you know, sometimes guys, when you're traveling, not giving you direct personal advice, but you know, maybe have 2 points of access to cash. Now it might be a travel card, okay, it may be additional, you know, cash float. It could be 2 different bank cards in different locations. If you lose one gets compromised, you've got the other. Okay, yeah, just plan for that, because the best laid plans can go amiss. And you know, these days, you know, I'm happy to advise that I travel with a couple of cards. There's pros and cons, up to you. But yeah, the threat of losing cash, losing a card or a credit card, access card being compromised, you know, there's travel money cards, there's all kinds of things out there, guys. I'm not, you know, money transfer companies and all that shebang. Okay, I'm not here to give you financial advice personalised, but you know, I was a highly seasoned traveller. You know, didn't stop me from having my credit card skimmer scammed. All right, and I'll talk a little bit more about scams in one of my earlier videos. I'll put a thumbnail at the bottom of this one. Yeah, guys, big fan of having, you know, plan B to deal with lost cash, lost cards, just compromised kind of financial negative scenarios. What about you folks? Are you, like me, an advocate for the value of the plan B? Have you got a bit of You know, have you got an experience, a little bit of generalised saged advice, a story, an anecdote to share? Don't be afraid to opine in the comment section. Keep it positive, keep it classy, and we'll see you again soon on Coffee Chill TV. All the best.